Hello everyone and welcome to this video where we're going to be building a vehicle that is based heavily on the truck from the movie Dante's Peak. It's a 1997 movie starring Pierce Brosnan and it features this awesome 1987 Chevy Suburban, and we are going to be going through the steps and building the truck that you see here. I actually saw this article on the drive yesterday and it brought back a bunch of memories and a bunch of nostalgia from one of my favorite 90s movies, and it features this awesome and rugged looking lifted Chevy Suburban. Now funny enough, in real life this one is being restored, which is super cool, and it kind of got me thinking and brought back a lot of memories. Like I said, this truck was used in the movie there for a lot of really cool scenes. It has a lot of cool features and upgrades and ultimately just looks great. So what I'm going to do is try my best to kind of replicate it as I did with the Twisters truck. But before I do that, as I always do, I take a good look at what pictures exist, things we can find. You can see the rear wheel, the gas tank, we got the snorkel, the lights, massive roof rack in the back there. So we're gonna take all these features that we see here and really do our best to replicate them within the world of Stormworks. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, as my other one also. I'm not making a replica. What I'm doing is a heavy inspiration. So you can see here, this one's looking in pretty rough shape, but we get the idea of what it's supposed to look like just because it's finally in the light here. Again, with the massive lift and tires and all that stuff. So here is my version, the Buckle Badlands, and as you can see, it's even red, but the idea is that it was based on the newer one, and of course it doesn't have any of the options and features, so this is going to be a pretty easy and fun video. And as you know, I'm just super swamped right now in real life, so an easy build and easy video are definitely in my to-do list here rather than something too complex and difficult. So you could see I'm not going to have to do any tuning of the engine other than bring it up to the most modern specification, which I believe is 8.1 for me. So I know my latest engine microcontroller, and the Badlands, funny enough, did not use it. And really the only difference is this one has a speed limiter, so you don't go 200 kilometers an hour or whatever into a wall. This kind of just limits the speed. But what I'm going to do is strip out all of the, call it luxurious features, because the way this trim model worked in my lore is that this is the top of the line supercharged version called SPC, and it has all these fancy bells and whistles. But of course we're kind of making it brought back to the 80s a little bit, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove some of those luxurious, call it features, but our version is still going to be much like this one. So even in doing this and removing that, it'll kind of work with the lift too, because if I throw in this curved piece there, and up here we're going to do something special as well, just to make it seem like it is the metal style bumper that cars of that era used so commonly, rather than kind of the plastic nice piece that we're using. So we're kind of making it more of a retro style right now. And what I'm going to do is keep the styling semi modern, just so the vehicle still does retain its kind of functionality, including the mirrors and such. We're going to turn them chrome. Now I did end up finding a nice color balance that kind of has that almost orangey red color that we see in the movie vehicle. So I'm just going and updating all these based on that. And you could see the bottom of the bumper now. It just kind of stops there. Now it is a little abrupt, but it does show the plastic, or sorry, it shows the metal bumper a little bit nicer. And that's kind of what I would expect of a vehicle of this era. Now that might be a little bit more palatable, but I'll see how and if I do that, because also keep in mind we're going to be adding that huge shield. Now, as for the roof racks, very easy. Just going to grab myself rails, but what I'm going to want is it to be the middle segment, and I'm going to plop it on like this. Now the top one will be the end one, so that is just going to be the end like that. Now I do wish that there were different lengths, because now if I do this, you're going to see there's going to be a hole in the middle, which doesn't look great, but we might be able to kind of fudge our way around it, especially if I put something there. Now, of course, there is a bit of creative element here. It's not purely just making the movie car, it's also making kind of my own thought about it. So that's where I say we can probably just do something like that, and it will get the point across. And from the distance, it actually still looks fine. So that's what I'm going to roll with right there. Now, the wheels, I'm going to actually use XML modding because they're currently the largest they can be. We need them to be even larger, so I'm going to get to that later, but we don't need that as we speak. Now, in the movie car, it has an epic light rack here on the front, and that light rack actually supports 5 lights. Now, because the light configuration in Stormworks, at least in the unmodded version that I'm using, the lights are smaller, so we have a choice either to put more, such as this, where we end up with 7 lights instead of 5, or if we did that, we can have 3, or if we did that, we can have 4. Now, in my opinion, I think 4 kind of looks better, and it kind of more matches the vehicle. So yeah, we don't have the center one, but I think that looks really good on that light rack there. I did previously delete this, but then I pulled out another version. So I'm gonna move the door switch over to the left here, and the reason for that is because we need to put a wheel on the back. Now the wheel itself can not be one of these because this one has a spring, so it just has to be a regular old 3x3 wheel, and we'll put it right there. And of course I am going to increase the size, and I'll even make it the high grip version, even though these ones aren't, just so it kind of looks visually nice. Now, in my opinion, the bumper guard is what's really going to make this vehicle, just because the bumper guard served such a important purpose, and it really does give it that extremely rugged look. Now I could just go like that, so it kind of comes up from the bottom, and then I'll put a flat piece here. But if I do that, I'm just going to delete these painted pieces. There's no need to keep it painted there, such as that. And then back to this color, we're going to jump up, add a 1x2 wedge. So that kind of looks the part. We could also go one higher of these before having the 1x2 wedge. See how that looks? That kind of works too. Now, we do have lights all over this thing. I believe there are 4 lights, and they're kind of mounted in a really cool way. Now, on the movie vehicle, they're actually mounted a little bit in a different place. Like this one would be like that. So they'd actually kind of look like this. And that does look really cool. So let's see if we can't find a way to put that in to our truck. So it kind of had that, and then over here they had a top bar that went up like this and then reached over top and across. Now because that looks a little awkward here, not a fan, we could put the light attached to that and it kind of looks much better. The caveat being this one is floating, so if I remove that, that kind of looks okay. Definitely rugged. Another idea is actually to bring it in by one, and rather than being where I had them, move everything out and make it a little bit closer. And what this is actually going to allow me to do is do something cool with the winch, because we still have to put a winch at the front of this truck. The movie car had a winch, and we're gonna put a big, or one of these larger winches like this, but I don't want it there. I want it kind of sticking out into the bull guard as it was in the movie, so it'll look more like this. Now that actually gives me the potential to put the light on either side of the winch like this, which could kind of be nice. Or what we can do is put them on the bars as I currently had. Now I'm going to try them out here on either side of the winch, because I think that this will be kind of the look that I'm going for. So that works. Oh, there we go. So those lights now are on either side of the winch. Yeah, they're floating a little bit, but that is okay. It kind of looks the part. And now for this part of the bull guard, we can go up and in, and like I had previously with the lights ending there. So that kind of works. Yeah, this is a little tall, so we could do potentially this one, or if we just remove these ones, we could also have the wedge piece right here like that. Now it's on the low side. Trying it out like this with a bigger gap, I actually think I prefer the other one more. So to have this part lowered and not have these pieces there. So we'll just take it and lower it back down. I think this works nicely, especially because the bull guard is over top of the lights rather than being over top of the hood. So yeah, in Stormworks we kind of are stuck using these systems again, unless we're using modded blocks, which I don't want to. So this does look nice in my opinion. All right, now we're gonna get into some of the little nitpicky visuals here, such as adding paintable blocks to show the bumper. Now maybe I'm just off the deep end and going too detailed, but I do think that if I can show this bumper sort of looking metal and attached like that, rather than being embedded as part of the car, it will kind of look more retro, look more the part. So this same thing I'm going to apply on this side, of course, and not just that, we're going to apply it to the rear bumpers as well, because they are also going to be the same type of material, metal. So once I figure out the buttons there, just like that, embed that, and we can paint all of this. And I just have to be careful that that's the same color, which I want to change it up a little bit just so I don't end up, so I have some difference. So we can do that. And then the bottom one, I'm actually going to paint the same as the part on the front, which is black. So it just does look more like it's the underside of the vehicle rather than being the full size of the bumper. Now in the back, technically I could even do something different just to portray this even more, and that would be if I removed the exhaust now, which isn't great, and that's actually the reasoning for this. But you see, if we go and do that, I can put this smaller block there and kind of have the chrome bumper more so visible, like that. So it kind of looks more chromey. And we've got to paint the top of it, of course. Nice. On the back of the truck, on the tailgate here, it had a gas tank. Now, if I don't want to just make it purely visual like this, with obviously more detail, which I don't, I'd actually prefer it to be a working gas tank. So if we find a tank such as this, I can actually put a pipe piece, put a hose end piece on the top, and then if we have, for example, a hard point here to kind of look like the top of the jug, and on the bottom either that or the rounded thing like this, that kind of does look like a fuel tank. So we can have fuel tank there, and of course it comes preloaded with diesel, so you get a little bit extra range. Of course you could siphon your fuel tank into your main vehicle tank, which is right here. Now the truck had really cool 80s style mirrors, so I did remove the more modern ones that I have, and I'm just gonna go ahead and place some like that. So that kind of works. They weren't huge, they were the small ones, so no need to use one of those massive microcontroller blocks. I think that'll work as long as the doors open. They do. Does the tailgate open? It does. Perfect. So clearly something is happening correctly here. One of the useful modifications for this vehicle was that snorkel that you saw. So I'm just going to go and delete these basic blocks until I can get to here. Now this microcontroller is going to have to move out of the way, and here is our air intake. So it actually feeds through here. Now we don't need this to be the supercharged version, but why not? I do prefer the supercharged version, so we could just do it like this, and it'll fit right in out of the air intake out here. And now what I'll do is route the piping up to the location. Now the movie Snorkel actually started kind of halfway down the hood, so it could even be like here. And of course we'll paint this back to the red color. And then this was black. Now we only do have the one type of piping, so we're kind of stuck with it. But if we went like this, and we don't have angled piping either, so my worry is if I place it any further, it's going to smack into the door, which won't be good for anyone. So I can do this, and then I'll just take an exhaust and kind of mount like that. Now this should go back into the car, and we did free up some space where we removed the supercharger, or moved the supercharger, so we have some space back there. Perfect. So that should be a working snorkel system now. And one thing I like about these older vehicles is they had kind of chrome trim all over the place. So what I'm going to do is grab my paintable block here and actually paint some trim. Now technically in the real life car this is on the door itself, but I don't really want to put it on the door for the reason that we got the hinge pieces, so we'd have to kind of, it'll be discontinuous. So instead, I'm just going to put it on the top of the block here. And by being near the top like this, I actually think that it'll get the point across quite well, even though it's not physically on the door to open. So we just merge them all in, and I think this is going to look nice. And I'll just duplicate it on both sides, so we have a symmetrical vehicle, of course. And once that's done, I'm going to spawn it in. Yeah, see? Between the bumper there and this, I think it does look great. Now, there aren't really much more modifications other than the wheels. So if you followed my video on how to do these minor XML modding, then you'll already know how to do this. But if not, stay tuned. So what I'm going to do is, you see here we have our tire radius, and we did set it all to 2. So we are already using the non-default tire radius. Wheel size, there we go. So now my wheel size is all 2. If I go in here, do that, I could set it to be larger, so I can go 2.25 or I can go all the way to 2.5. Let's go ahead and replace them all. And now when I go ahead and open this up, you can see the wheels look larger. How awesome is that? Now, it doesn't have as high of a lift as the movie vehicle, but I think this is enough. Over here, this wheel's also oversized. Just make sure the tailgate still works. And let's go take this thing for a spin. Now, so far, all the mods are surface mods, meaning they don't actually do anything in the game. The lights don't work, the winch doesn't work, but we're about to make them work. So I'd say for the aesthetic purposes, this is pretty near where I need it to be. The one aesthetic thing missing is the door decal. Now, in the movie, the main character, Harry, is some sort of researcher or scientist. So that is the agency in the movie, but I'm going to see if I could think of something here clever. And there we have it, a little bit of painting, and there is our agency. Now, whether this is a personal vehicle with a badge, or whether OMA used to use a different logo in the 80s, there we have it. So I'm actually going to brand this under my Oceanic Research organization, because even water coming up and volcanic activity and stuff like that is still something that a researcher should know. The last thing is to make everything functional. Now, we had a lot of space on our seat. We have the horn, we have the low beam lights, so now we could easily add the roof lights and the bull bar lights. And then of course here we can have push and push, winch in and winch out. This is the easiest way to do it, especially because then I don't need to go ahead and make another microcontroller. I just literally go and attach it. So we got our roof lights, and then we got our right here 4. So I'm gonna put it on all of them. We'll see if that causes too many lights. And then we have winch in and winch out. So we have this, and I always just kind of throw it on and then see whether it works or not. Of course, to make it work first, we got to connect all these new lights to the electricity. And I do want to give it some new gear. Right now we have a lot of seating in the back. This version doesn't need to have as much seating, but instead what I'm going to do is make it up with placing equipment right in this. So something like what a researcher would have. And because it is a Suburban, I actually could even close off the back. I know there's no dogs in the movie. Well, actually there are, but this could even be like kind of a space closed off in the back. like this. It kind of looks a bit like a police car. Not too much of a fan. Anyway, equipment. Probably the best thing would be this new SCBA firefighter equipment, because you could put that on, you could recharge it. I'm going to leave the vehicle repair gear as I have, but this needs a pump, a way to fill in the air. And since volcanoes can be radioactive, we will put a radiation detector in the back. Now, yeah, we could have went with the hazmat gear, and maybe that's actually the better thing to put in this vehicle, because this way it absorbs hazmat, it absorbs incoming radiation, not the heat from a volcano. Alternatively, we could put both. You see that we have all of this seating and gear on both sides. We don't necessarily need that. We just have to make sure we don't delete something like that. But over here, if I clear all that, I could put more. So actually, because this vehicle already has 5 seats, even if I don't have any more seating in the back and just kind of focus on the equipment side of things, I think that'll actually suit this creation a bit better. So here now I can place this fire tank gear, and it does need a pump like last time, so I'm going to run it with a fluid pump. That fits way better and way nicer. I just couldn't show myself doing it because it was a bit of a painful process. And the nice thing is we can still get 4 more seats in the back along with all this gear, including rechargeable firefighting gear, hazmat gear, all that good stuff. So that is actually looking quite nice now. One thing I do want to do is take the system that I have here in this vehicle, the OL6, which has roof lights that kind of shine at all angles. So that's a very useful thing, especially in this case. So what we had is multiple of these lights and multiple aiming nodes. So to not have to redo the work, I'm actually just going to take these, put them on here, and then remove every other one. So back kind of to what we had. Mine were also painted gray. And we gotta fix the right button, etc, etc. Point is, they will now be able to be aimed, and will have over here, so we're just not using this one. So once I find these two, I can extract them. There we go. And put them in my other vehicle. And there it is, polished up. So people often ask me, how do I polish my creations, give tutorials, etc. And maybe I will, but you see the care and effort it takes even just to go from an existing vehicle to a little bit of a reconfiguration, and the amount of work that it takes just to get there. So it doesn't say, I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying it's hard, I'm just saying it takes time. And that is kind of what it usually is. So, taking a quick look at the whole vehicle now, I do like what I see. And in the back here, we have all kinds of stuff. We can charge up the gear. We have radiation detectors. In the front, we got our winch that we can attach and double check that it's working properly. So if we press 6, it's coming out. If we press 5, it's coming in. Perfect. And this now gives us a vehicle that can go exploring the volcanoes a little bit better than the version that did not have all this modification. So thank you all for watching. I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my supporters. They get to enjoy early released creations such as this one. And I know I'm not putting out as much content these days just because I'm so busy. I'm pretty much full-time working and then coming home and full-time building my basement and then going on vacation soon and all kinds of other personal things going on. But rest assured I'm here, and rest assured that there will be more. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting, for commenting, for subscribing, being a part of the community, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, happy Stormworksing, everyone.